This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for What in the World with Paul Siebert and his sidekick, John Tanalo. It is Tuesday. Again, we are here on a Tuesday afternoon at 3:30 p.m., but we are not live. Well, we're alive. We're not live to all of you. You have to watch us in the future, and I'm sorry for that. But Zoom did it to us again, everybody. So welcome to tomorrow or next week.
Or someday,
Yes.
yeah. I like that. We are live. I think we're live. That may be that. Some days that's debatable, but today seems like a pretty good day here in Cleveland, Ohio. Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, it's What in the World with me, your host, Paul Seaburn, everybody's favorite weird news podcast, real news, sometimes strange, always funny. That's our motto. It is, that's right. It's 3:30 Pacific, or no, Pacific, Eastern Daylight Time. That is, well, I'm in the future I'm in California somewhere.
Yeah.
Eastern Daylight Time. For those of you listening to us in the future, thank you for joining us, either in your ear or on YouTube, whatever, however it might be. But we're so thrilled that you're joining us for the show. We're here every week on newclevelandradio.net, which is our platform. Go there. On the top, there's a tab to click on to find our podcast. Click on that, find all the places you can download it for free, Spotify, YouTube. Then check out all the other great podcasts Karen has at newclevelandradio.net. A wide variety. It's not just funny stuff. It's all kind of useful, entertaining podcast. Then you're not done yet. Then check out Yes I Can Coaching with Karen for all your coaching needs. Uh, Great coaching from Karen, and it's also our sponsor. So we appreciate that as well. I talked about her long enough. That first voice you hear in your ear on every Tuesday is Karen Hale, media mogul at newclevelandradio.net, our producer and co-host here on What in the World. Uh, did I get everything in there? Yeah. I had to think for a second there. So the other voice you hear in your other ear is my old buddy, our co-host, color commentator, and host of What in the World of Sports with John Donalo. You know him by that name. Hey, John, how are you doing?
Hey, Paul and Karen and audience, I'm doing great. Major League Baseball is back. Major League Baseball started today in Tokyo with the Cubs taking on the Dodgers. I don't even know who won, but baseball is back. And if you're able to see us on YouTube, I have my Cleveland Indians gear on today. Now, again, the baseball team that plays in Cleveland, the pro team is the Cleveland Guardians. Respect to them, but I grew up as a Cleveland Indians fan, and the Cleveland Indians connection does not go away from me. So that's why I have the gear on to show some props to them.
Okay, John. There you go. We got all the justifications out of the way there, all the
Well,
legal.
yeah, exactly. You got to justify it somehow, Paul. Absolutely.
Send all your complaints to newclevelandradio.net, care of John Donalo. And oh, I do want to thank all of you for joining us again. If you came to us through mysteriousuniverse.org, which is where I'm the editor and head writer, thank you for joining us there. A lot of you join us on Facebook. We've got some really good friends of the show on Facebook, and I want to give a shout out to some of them who hung around with us last week when we've been changing days so many times, and they stick with us. I can tell because they always send me little messages. So I want to say shout out to Brian, to Marion. Marion likes to send us stories. Brian too. So we love doing when you guys do that. Jay, Jamie. Jamie's a new listener to this show, and a special one to DD Moonflyer. DD Moonflyer is a friend of mine. She's also a fellow podcaster. I've been on her podcast. If we had guests, I'd have her on this podcast. She has a great paranormal podcast called the Twilight Tonic Paranormal Podcast. So check that out. DD Moonflyer is her name, especially if you're on Facebook. Great podcast. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Oh,
Before you go any further, I just want to give an update.
yeah.
The Dodgers won 4-1 over the Cubs.
Oh, wow. Okay, Karen, thanks for the update. That's
Yeah.
good. Good to hear.
Okay. Good
Go
news, I guess.
baseball.
Dodgers fan. Bad news for Cubs fan. The all right. So, if you're down in Texas, this weekend I think is the last weekend for the Houston Rodeo, which I used to go to many times when I was living in Texas. So, our first story is not really a rodeo story, but it's from Texas. Cowboy kangaroos are seen in Texas, so we'll find out about that. Some artificially intelligent fast food. Uh, a spring training baseball mystery from John, the world's worst jeans from France, plus some more odd news. Oh, tasty fish bait from England and hairy fish bait from Maine, pizza problems in Florida, and some more odd news. We got some trivia. We got world records, the usual stuff. Plus, uh, another strange sport from John, and we end up playing everybody's favorite weird news game, Bluff the Co-host. So let's get right to it with our first story. This is from Texas, from Fayette County, Texas, which I believe is closer to San Antonio than Houston. The police in Fayette County, Texas, were called out to investigate a kangaroo. And I have a photo of the kangaroo. So while I'm thinking about it here, I'm going to put up, there's our logo. There's my book, What Would You Say to a Naked Space Alien, available on Amazon.com. You can also get a link to it on my website, paulseaburn.com. So check that out. Okay, there's our kangaroo right there. So, yes, he's a cute kangaroo. He's a kangaroo wearing a jacket. So I don't know. He's a real tiny jacket, real big kangaroo. I guess it has to be tiny to get pulled over that tiny head that kangaroos have. But he was hopping along the side of the road. There's a fence over there. It's a good thing that a kangaroo in a jacket didn't hop through one of the Polish neighborhoods in Texas, because that's how they got the idea for pigs in a blanket. Somebody saw something. Next thing you know, they're eating something in cabbage and calling it pigs in a blanket. I'll tell you what, I've been to the rodeo and I've eaten rodeo food. If they could make a fried kangaroo on a stick, they would sell it at the Houston rodeo. So,
oh boy,
good news, Karen. I know you said because he is cute. By the way, they said it was returned safely to its owner after the cops performed a mandatory check in its pockets for drugs and weapons. Doesn't matter if you're a person or a kangaroo, you get checked for all that stuff in Texas. But you could tell he wasn't a Texas kangaroo because he didn't have a little cowboy hat on. And I happened to find a Texas kangaroo right here. Here's a picture of a Texas kangaroo. There's a little.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it is cute.
Yeah. If you go to rodeo, I'm sure if they have a kangaroo category, that's what he'll look like. So the cops tried to feed this kangaroo, and this is Texas. They didn't know any better. They had Barbie, obviously it's Texas, but they had no shrimp on it. So,
oh.
How old is that reference right there? That's got to be 30 or 40 years old. Shrimp
I would say that at least that for sure.
Yeah. So the person who smoked it, the person who reported it said that described it as a red smoking jacket that the kangaroo was wearing, a little red smoking jacket. Now, I don't know what this kangaroo was smoking, but it made the jacket shrink, obviously, because that's a real.
Doesn't seem right somehow. Doesn't seem right.
No, John, it doesn't seem right at all. But thank goodness it has a happy ending. So let's move on to Austria. Interesting story from Austria. I talked about this on Facebook. They have a musical group called the Vegetable Orchestra in Vienna, as of all places. 11-piece, and I guess I should say 11 vegetable orchestra. They make their instruments only out of vegetables. and they just set a Guinness World Record, which is why we're talking about it, for the most concerts by a vegetable orchestra after playing, get ready for this, their 344th show.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking if they added herbs, not just vegetable, but herbs as well, they could call themselves the Vienna Dill Harmonic.
Oh,
Oh, good one,
glad you
Paul.
got the horn on that one. That was deserved, Paul. That was deserved.
Yeah, here's another picture of the entire band there, each one holding a vegetable that they've turned into a musical instrument. So people are wondering, what do they do after they're done with the concert? They make vegetable soup out of the vegetables and anything that they had left over, and they serve it after the concert. So the favorite of the favorite flavors that they make are violinastrone and cream of best.
Very catchy. Very catchy.
They carve all different kinds of vegetables into the instruments. They make percussion instruments. They said the most asked question is, "Are you a vegetarian or a vegan?" And they get all upset about it. Yeah, really, John. They get all upset because they've been asked so many times. They're not.
I bet. Sure.
They said you can't make a flute out of a hot dog, but you can.
Oh. Oh.
Okay.
Now one of our listeners is going to make a flute out of a hot dog.
Right.
If you do, send me a picture. So I want to warn anybody out there, don't try this at the produce section of your favorite grocery store, because the little old ladies will report you if you do anything weird with a cucumber. Now, don't ask. No, I know that.
Oh boy.
But so they have the instruments that they make. So one of them is the carrot recorder, which is one of those fluty things, a cucumber phone, a percussive eggplant. I'm not sure what that looks like, and a leek violin. I don't know how they make a violin out of a leek, but they do that. They also have something called the radarimba, which is a radish marimba, which I'd really like to see. So they don't just play classical, they play electronic, rock, and punk. And, I was thinking about some other bands that might want to try this. And I came up with two, Red Hot Chili Peppers and on a really tiny scale, the Black Eyed Peas.
That seems appropriate, Paul.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll have to see if they're listening. Okay. So this was, I like to play board games. John, I know you like to play board games. Karen, you probably have played many board games in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Monopoly, a favorite of everybody. So Hasbro, you don't mess with Monopoly. Hasbro is messing with Monopoly. They've come up with a new version of Monopoly, an artificially intelligent version of Monopoly that replaces the cash and the banker with a mobile app that keeps track of each player's money and their property, thus eliminating the need for those cool, different, multicolored little fake money that you had and counting. So it takes some of the fun away. It also takes some of the education away from playing Monopoly. Parents are really upset about this, because a lot of them use Monopoly to teach their kids how to count, teach them how to balance a checkbook, stuff like that. It taught them math. Wait, if this catches on, the next thing they're going to come out with is Scrabble with a spell checker, which
it kind of defeats the purpose, though. Wow.
It defeats the purpose, John. You're right. So, just like in real Monopoly, the winner never goes to jail or pays taxes. Like that makes it just like the monopolies that run our country.
Yep.
So,
there's a little economic commentary there.
Exactly. Yeah, a little bit there. Okay, so I love playing Monopoly because it taught you about real life. Property is a good investment. That's what we learned by playing Monopoly. We learned that railroads are a worthless investment. We also, which I don't think anybody invests in railroads anymore. We also learned that rich people will cheat you from playing, right?
That is true. That is true.
We learned that the best dogs are Scotty dogs because that was the only dog that was a piece in the Monopoly game. And finally, we learned about sexism. And how did we learn about sexism? Because any girl that was playing always got stuck with the thimble.
Yeah,
right?
I would say that's pretty accurate. That's pretty accurate.
Older brothers got the race car, and you got the cannon, and
Sure.
you always get the girls.
What about the battleship, Paul? What about the battleship? That was always one.
And it started fights. You learn how to be diplomatic, and this is the worst idea I've ever heard. So let's move on. But we're not going to be able to escape artificial intelligence. So here's another example. McDonald's, of all places, announced it is adding artificial intelligence to its drive-throughs and AI-powered tools for managers to help make sure that orders are accurate and to predict equipment issues before they shut down. So, I mean, this is scary. This means that AI will now work for minimum wage, managing teenagers at McDonald's. I can't believe that AI agreed to do that. But to show how smart these AI managers are, they only agreed to do the job after being assured that they wouldn't be responsible for the ice cream machines at McDonald's.
They're always not working. That's it.
Yeah, even AI can't figure out the ice cream machines at McDonald's, John.
So yeah, wow.
43,000 restaurants. McDonald's is putting AI in all 43,000.
Wow.
And what they said is, and I'm going to quote, this is an attempt to cut wait times and make a better experience for both customers and employees. Who goes to McDonald's for the experience?
That's a great question, Paul. That's a great question.
Who works at McDonald's for the experience? I mean, other than to say you worked at McDonald's, I think the experience it's got to be one of the worst in history. This is like saying you go to the dentist for the stimulating conversation that you.
Yeah, really. Oh my.
This is giving artificial intelligence the wrong message. That it works at McDonald's. It's going to find out we're all just mindless drones standing in line, eating the same bad food day after day after day. And we're so happy about it that we get excited when we get a little Happy Meal with a little prize in it. And they're gonna hear us say that we came there because we deserve a break today. How bad?
That's the slogan, right? That was the slogan
that's
back
right,
in the
John.
day.
How bad is your life that McDonald's is the break that you deserve? I'm sorry. I feel bad for you. I really do. So if McDonald's food isn't bad enough, wait till you hear this, okay? According to many internet sites, people are snacking on biodegradable packing material.
No way.
Yes. That a lot of companies are using in packaging their goods when they ship them. So it says biodegradable. That doesn't mean that it's edible.
I would think so. Wow.
Yeah. The experts are warning that it could cause bloating, pain, and gas. And people who are eating this obviously are not of our generation, which grew up on circus peanuts. And
oh yeah, right. Oh yeah.
To me,
right with you on that, Paul. Right with you.
Yeah, John. That was packing material to me. I wasn't going to eat that. It looked like the same stuff that came in the box.
Come on now. That's like
from
silly.
Montgomery Ward's. Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh yeah.
Or Sears. Yeah. So there's a reason why there's so much orange chemical powder on Cheetos, because this is what Cheetos are basically. But when you take the orange powder off of Cheetos, you don't want to eat them. That's what this tastes like. You don't want to eat them. Nobody eats them. Plain corn puffs taste terrible. They're packing material. So these people are eating packing material, but these are the same people that won't eat insects. You know, that doesn't make any sense. Insects at least have protein in them.
That's right.
In fact, insects probably walked over this stuff before it got packed into the box. So, you
Good
know,
chance of that.
Yes.
Good chance of that happening, Paul, for
you're
sure.
getting little pieces of insect and insect poop anyway. So, you know, don't these,
Oh,
the, this edible stuff has never worked. Amazon, besides packing this stuff in edible packing material, Amazon actually sells edible spoons and forks and plates and plates. You know, you can have an entire edible place setting with your food on it, and then eat the place setting after you're done.
something not right with that, Paul.
Yeah.
God, okay, this is for you. How much spaghetti sauce would you need to eat an edible plate?
No, there cannot be enough. I mean, an edible plate. I mean, I don't know. I'm just too old school. I don't want to be touching fooling around with something like that, Paul.
I wouldn't even ask you to eat this stuff. I mean, it looks disgusting. So
It looks disgusting. Yeah,
an
absolutely.
edible plate, maybe. Who
Oh
knows?
my.
You know, one place where you can get good food, and John mentioned it, that this is the season for it, is at the baseball park. Uh, you know, I'm getting ready for those hot dogs and stadium mustard down at where the Guardians, the former Indians, play, and so that means spring training is officially over. First game is played. It's time for baseball. And it's also the beginning of spring. You know, when baseball starts, that means it's spring. And believe it or not, both spring training and spring mean that it's mud season. Now, John is here to explain the connection between mud and baseball, which has nothing to do with making sliding more fun. So, John, why don't you explain the mystery of mud and its connection to baseball?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, Paul. Thanks again. So the mud that Paul is referring to, it is called Lena Blackburn Baseball Rubbing Mud. Now, this mud is used to prepare baseballs before they're put into play. Newly manufactured baseballs have somewhat of a slick and glossy surface that has to be removed to give pitchers a firmer grip and better control. Before the discovery of rubbing mud, baseballs were rubbed in a mixture of water and infield soil.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but isn't that combination also mud?
Well, Paul, you are right about that, but the problem with infield mud was that it actually discolored the baseball's leather surface.
Ah,
Other alternatives at that time were tobacco juice, shoe polish, and believe it or not, soil from underneath stadium bleachers.
oh, I've been under stadium bleachers. You don't want to know what's in that.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that one, Paul. So, for a little bit of history, in the late 1930s, Lena Blackburn was a third base coach of the Philadelphia Athletics, and he decided to find a better mud. He liked the mud from the New Jersey side of the Delaware River, and so did the umpires and pitchers. They liked it so much that he actually founded the Lena Blackburn Baseball Rubbing Mud Company to sell the mud. Now, by the 1950s, it was used by every Major League Baseball team, along with some minor league and college baseball teams. After Blackburn passed away in 1968, the company changed hands a few times and is now owned by Jim Bentliff, who still goes once a year to the Delaware River and returns with 1,000 pounds, which he sells the following year after it is clean, screened, and canned.
Clean, screened, and canned. That sounds like a law firm that you call when you get hit in the head by a foul ball at the
Well,
stadium.
I think you're right up. You're almost right, Paul, about that. But because it's clean, wait, Lena Blackburn baseball rubbing mud doesn't foul the balls, and they lose their slick, but they keep their color.
Oh, see now,
Yeah.
John, isn't he stealing the mud? I mean, he doesn't own that.
That's a
Well,
great question, Karen. Paul,
sure,
maybe you have some information on that.
I was thinking the same thing, Karen. In fact, to me, this sounds like a good business for John to get into, or for all of us to get into.
Yeah.
It's free mud. Why don't we go get some of this mud and sell it to the Guardians or some other team?
No, wait a minute. Jim Bentliff has kept the exact location of the mud a secret. Now, if anyone sees him, he tells them that he uses it for his rose bushes, bee stings, and poison ivy. Besides, if anyone could find it, it would be my old friend and friend of the show, Norm, who has not only visited every Major League Baseball park, he has actually fished in the Delaware River where they extract the mud.
Wow.
Okay, John. We'll cut Norm in on the deal. We'll
Well,
where the
I think
river
you'd appreciate that. Yeah.
Wow.
I put way too much thought into this. I actually have come up with the perfect name for our company for the mud. And we're gonna call for Cleveland baseball mud, we're gonna call it Dewey Clean 'em and How.
Well, for all you fans of the Three Stooges, that law firm name is a little bit of a takeoff, but actually, Paul, I think you struck out on that one.
Oh.
Good
Well,
one, guys.
I'll tell you what. I want to say thank you to Norm for helping out on that as well. I know he inspired John to talk about it today, and it was a perfect spring training story. So, Lena Blackburn original baseball rubbing mud. Wow, baseball's magic mud. That's what it says on the jar. And 1,000 pounds every year. That's a lot of mud. I can't believe.
Well, you got to think though, Paul and Karen and audience. Think of how many baseball games are played, and think of how many baseballs are used in a game, right? So, in one sense, yes, one sense, no, but yeah.
Yeah. There. I got it. Great idea, great story. Thanks again to you, John, and to Norm as well. Okay, getting back to some weird news here. A hot new fashion trend in France is one-legged jeans. That's right. Jeans with only one leg, manufactured that way by the French designer Caperni. And they're selling them for $440 a pair. Or I would say more honestly, 2/3 of a pair. All I can say, I look at this with jeans with only one leg, and I think this is finally relaxed fit jeans for pirates.
Well, I think if the pants fit, so to be it, right? As the expression goes, right? Wow, yeah.
I heard this story, and I heard my father clapping his head against his forehead, face palming. I got a pair of scissors and some $5 Walmart jeans here. Yeah. I'll make your designer jeans.
That guy is sort of looking at her like she's a little odd too.
Oh, yeah, I know. The other photos that I found were a little more risque. The women were all in their bras. Who goes out in their bra and their one-legged jeans? I mean,
something not right about that either, Paul.
I don't even want to know, but I didn't want to offend anybody, so this was the nicest picture that I could find. But then I thought about my poor mom. Now, my mom was a professional seamstress, so the only reason she would ever cut the leg off of a pair of jeans was to patch another pair of jeans.
Yes.
Yeah.
That I either wore out the knees pitching baseball cards, or fell in the playground, or you remember those days, John.
Of course I do. Sure, no doubt. Yeah.
So if you and then if you made cutoffs, when we got older that's when cut-off shorts were the big thing.
Oh
So
yeah, sure.
Yep.
with you had those Karen, I'm sure Karen wore those too with the
Yep.
raggedy end.
Oh yeah.
But if you cut off those legs, you gave them to your mom because she used those legs for something else.
She sure
It's
did.
not like these people. Who knows what they did with the legs there? And then, if you had brothers and sisters, and you were the youngest in the family, by the time all those cut off jeans got down to you, you were wearing Frankenstein jeans. You had
That's a good description.
yeah, you had legs from one brother. You had patches on your butt from your sister. You got, who knows where those jeans came from and who wore them. So let's get back to this designer who comes up with this idea and actually thinks it's worth $440. They call them the one leg denim trouser. So it's not, they don't even call them jeans. They're denim trousers. They say the vintage blue cotton jeans are currently sold out in the available sizes. What are the available sizes? Extra small, small, and medium. This is what this designer thinks of you, ladies. It won't even make large or extra large or mom jeans in one-legged style. They think only little skinny girls will wear our designer jeans. And
They haven't been to Walmart lately.
I think that's exactly right. Then, skinny girls put these jeans on the same way as bigger girls put them on.
Right.
In fact, skinny girl, I bet you skinny girls, they don't even think, they put the short leg on first, and then it's like, oh crap, now I got to lift my leg way up, and
Oh,
I just, what do we fall for these days? Okay, so here's one from Florida. Oh, this is a typical Florida story. Florida doctor had admitted to dumping gallons of urine on the front door of a rival medical practice because they were having a business dispute. And to avoid going to trial, he agreed to perform community service, pay restitution, and write a letter of apology. So in other words, he agreed to a pee bargain.
oh, very good with the horn. Very appropriate there, Paul. Okay.
Now, my friend Ron on Facebook said he should have let the clinic do the same thing back to the other doctor, and then they could have called it a pissing contest.
Oh,
Oh my.
Luckily, the cleanup was covered by insurance. Now, what insurance covers a cleanup like this? Allstate. Why Allstate? Because you're in good hands.
Oh, jeez.
Oh.
You're on a roll, Paul, with all that. Wow.
Okay, let's move up to Canada. So no, not real, not figuratively. We're not talking about politics here. So the story's from Canada. A guy by the name of Mike Jack from Ontario, Canada, broke a Guinness World Record by eating, I can't believe anyone would do this, 25 Carolina Reaper chili peppers in 4 minutes and 36 seconds.
Ew.
Those are like the hottest peppers around. He broke a second record when he passed gas and set off 3 fire alarms. So,
Well, that's the result.
Wow.
Go figure.
and now, he's from Canada. Now his neighbors know why he never has snow in his driveway.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason for everything.
That's right, John. I think, this inspired me. If they can have competitive hot pepper eating, they ought to have competitive farting as well. For the people that participate in this, the loudest, obviously, smelliest.
Well, it wouldn't be the weirdest sport that's out there, that's for sure.
Well, and John would have it on our show. That's right. Biggest flame. Somebody on Facebook sent me a message. They really do light farts, and I thought, how do you know this? So this guy actually holds a number of Guinness World Records. And we had him on the show. I mean, we talked about him last year. He broke a record by drinking a Capri Sun juice, those little foil packs of juice, in 21 seconds using a paper straw. So, after he ate all these peppers, forget the paper straw, forget the juice. He put his mouth on a fire hose and turned it on.
Yeah.
That would help, I think. That would help him. Poor
All
guy.
right, so here's another eating record. This one comes from Great Britain. British speed eater Leah Schuitkever set a Guinness World Record for the most jelly worms eaten. Now, jelly worms, we call them gummy worms here in the United States. Most jelly worms eaten in 30 seconds when she downed 4.5 ounces, 130 grams, in 30 seconds. On her way to her car, she was swarmed by a flock of birds who made her an honorary robin. So there
Well,
she is in her Guinness World Record photo, holding up the gummy worms. She's a big hit. She's a huge hit at bait shops on April Fool's Day.
wow. You could see
yeah.
that happening.
So here's my question. If earthworms grow in the ground, why do we think that fish eat them in the water? Have you ever thought about
that? To be honest with you, Paul, never thought of it.
Yeah. I looked it up. Well, I Googled it, which is the same thing. And it turns out that fish really do eat earthworms. And somehow, and they dig in the dirt, or they wait till they come out of the dirt underneath the water somehow. But they do eat them besides the ones that are on hooks that we throw out there. So I wondered, do they like them better one individually, or do they prefer them in a carton? Like.
Well, I don't know if you'll ever get the answer to that one, Paul.
Well, okay, here's another question for you, John. Do you think fish like gummy worms?
I would say no.
I don't know.
Believe it or not,
it'll be something new for most of them, I would think, right? It's kind of
yeah,
a new
believe
thing.
it or not,
right?
they do. There are fishermen who, and not this particular one here, but there are fishermen who use gummy worms when they're desperate.
Really?
And,
okay.
Yeah. Or they hate killing the worm on the hook. I know a lot of fisher people like that.
They're more compassionate, right?
Yeah. Why bother with real worms if you can use a gummy worm? I'd do that. So plus you got a snack while you're waiting, because I never.
Oh my.
Speaking of digging deep for worms, here's another digging deep story. A man in China, Karen, brace yourself. A man in China needed serious emergency surgery after he severed an artery while picking his nose.
Oh, no.
No.
The worst part was when they wouldn't let him into the emergency room because his wife kept saying, "It's not an emergency."
Oh.
Oh.
It's not an emergency. To give you an idea how deep his finger went, when the doctors were finally done, they noticed that he had no earwax in his ear either.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. That's anatomically impossible, I think. But I don't know.
Well, John, you're right. If God didn't want, but if God didn't want us to pick our noses, why did he give us index fingers and make it feel so good?
That's a question to be pondered. That's a question to be pondered for a long time.
I always mention John and I have known each other since college. I had a college roommate who said picking your nose was your first orgasm.
I know who you're talking about, Paul.
And he had a really long index finger too. But that orgasm, he was always careful. He always wore a rubber glove. So
smart man.
Okay, something else that's fishy. A Maine entrepreneur is trying to get rid of the synthetic plastic hair that women and men as well use for hair extension, because it's made out of petroleum products. So he wanted to find something that was more natural. So he's making fake hair out of seaweed. Fake hair out of seaweed. Now these extensions, there's a picture of them here. These extensions come with a t-shirt that reads, I am not a female Oompa Loompa. Because who wants?
Oh my.
Sure, you get this stuff wet, it turns green, you look just like an Oompa Loompa. They also come with a warning that you should take this seaweed hair extension off if you go deep sea diving or whale watching. So,
Okay,
you know, yeah. They also void the guarantee. So wearing these voids the guarantee on Gee, Your Hair Smells Terrific shampoo. There's, there's no way you can make this stuff smell terrific. No
Yeah,
way.
no kidding. Yeah, no kidding.
God, it's like wearing seaweed hair. It's like being a living chia plant. You remember those chia plants?
Sure.
With
How can you
leaves
forget the
growing
chia?
out of the head?
Oh yeah, of
That's what
course.
this is. And here's what I thought, John, Mr. Sports Guy. NFL players like to wear these things. I wouldn't wear seaweed hair extensions if I was playing against the Dolphins.
Well, that would be appropriate, obviously. I mean, if the team is named the Dolphins, I mean, yeah, kind of.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh my.
You'd like to see that, I know. Okay. All right, so one more Florida story. Oh, I love the Florida. Oh, this was a really popular story on Facebook this week. A pizza delivery driver in Bradenton, Florida. Do you know where that is, John? Bradenton?
Yeah, actually, I do. And actually, Annette's brother lives in Bradenton.
No kidding. Oh, well,
Yeah.
maybe he can verify this story, or maybe he heard about this.
I'll check with him to see if he knows about this. Sure.
Okay, so a pizza delivery driver in Bradenton called the police after finding a large alligator blocking the door to the house where he was trying to make a delivery of a pizza. Now, there's a picture of the alligator. Underneath the car, there's a red circle there in case you couldn't see this monstrous thing blocking the poor guy's way. So the cops were experienced at dealing with alligators in this kind of situation. So they made the alligator run away by telling it that the pizza was topped with pineapple.
Hey, but whatever works, right? Whatever works.
Yeah. So this happens a lot in Florida. That's what they said in this news story. So Domino's guarantee in Florida is different than in any other place in the United States. The guarantee in Florida is we deliver in 30 minutes unless there's a gator, and then we give your order to Papa John's. So
oh,
ask about that, John.
I will check. I will check with Annette's brother on that for sure to see if he knows anything about it. For sure, I'll let you know.
I don't.
I'll check.
No, I don't think I've seen alligators in the wild. I don't want to see them in my driveway. That's a little,
no doubt.
Especially if I'm waiting for a pizza, because you're pizza crazy,
Oh, I know.
All right. Well, that's the last story I have there for What in the World. That means it's time for What in the World of Sports with John Donalo. Boy, he seems to be taking over the show here today because we got another sport from John. But, this is the category that I like. Every week, I asked John. I've known him since college. Great sports guy, knows a lot about sports. I said, John, find us a sport that fits with the theme of real sport, sometimes strange, always funny. John always manages to find one. I know what the sport is this week, and this is a great one. So get ready. John, tell us what the sport is.
Oh, Paul, thanks for the big lead in here. I appreciate that. So, ladies and gentlemen, our sport this week sounds like it should be the national sport of Cleveland. You'll understand why when I tell you its name. The name of this sport is Polish horseshoes. Now, wait a second. You heard me correctly. It's Polish horseshoes. Now, for a definition, Polish horseshoes is an outdoor game played between two teams of two people using a frisbee, two glass bottles or cans, and stakes or poles hammered into the ground. The two stakes are placed anywhere between 20 to 40 feet apart, and a bottle or can is placed on each. Players must hold a drink in one hand at all times, leaving only one hand free for throwing and catching. It gets better. Contrary to its name, Polish horseshoes does not involve horseshoes at all. nor did it originate in Poland. The name comes from the two poles in the ground, thus making the game Polish.
Oh,
Little play on words, everyone. A little play on words. Now,
oh,
Polish horseshoes is also called Spanish horseshoes, Frisbeener in certain parts of the Midwest, French darts in Virginia. It's also called Frisnock in Manitoba, Canada, and Beersby elsewhere in Canada. Now,
go ahead.
it goes by many names, but it's the same sport. Now, the rules of Polish horseshoes are more complicated than the other kind. Listen carefully. A player throws the frisbee at the bottle or can on the stake opposite them, while the other team tries to catch the frisbee and the bottle. Then the other team throws the frisbee at the first team's bottle. Points are scored when the frisbee hits the stake or the bottle, when the bottle is knocked off the stake and hits the ground, or when the receiving team fails to catch the frisbee.
Wow.
Pretty involved. Play continues until one team has reached a certain number of points, typically 21, beating their opponent by at least 2 points. Now, if the disc hits the stake and the bottle is knocked off, then 1 point is scored unless the bottle is caught before it hits the ground. If the defending team fails to catch the disc, the throwing team gets 1 point. And if the disc is uncatchable, then no points are awarded.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, it gets even more complicated. If the disc hits the stake below knee height, or if it hits the stake after hitting the ground, the disc is deemed uncatchable and no points are awarded, even if the bottle is knocked off. Now, let's not forget an important aspect of this sport. It is the drink in the other person's hand. A catch does not count. A catch does not count if the catcher spills their drink and the throwing team gets a point. If a thrower hits the bottle directly and the defender fail to catch both the bottle and the disc, the throwing team then earns 3 points. 1 for the bottle hitting the ground, 1 for the disc hitting the ground, and 1 for spilling the drink.
Wow.
So there's not going to be a quiz on this, but you may have to run this back to make sure you know exactly what the rules are. Now, as I wrap this up, I can tell you this. Polish horseshoes sound like the perfect sport for Cleveland, even if it's not Polish. After all, we all play all sports while holding a cold beer.
Okay.
Every photo, if you noticed, every photo of people playing it, they all had a beer in one hand, and I love this.
Well, I have to say, Paul Karen, an audience. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
This-
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you short.
Yeah, this is not only if you're interested in playing this sport, obviously John gave you the instructions. You need some sort of pole, a ski pole, or a garden stake, a
Right.
frisbee, which everybody has, and 2 empty bottles, one or a can to put on each pole, and then obviously the rest of the beer to hold in your hand. You can buy kits to play this on Amazon. Not only that, somebody came up with glow-in-the-dark Polish horseshoes, where somehow they've got a light on the bottle, they've got fluorescent frisbees thrown at it. People are serious about this game.
It's more popular than you think. I mean,
Yeah.
I knew nothing about this until I kind of just stumbled upon it. But yeah, it's popular.
And it needs dexterity. You can't drink too much beer because if you were and it was difficult to follow all those rules for such a stupid game. You have one, so you have 2 hands because one hand, you only have one hand, so one player has to catch the bottle while the other player has to go for the frisbee, or
Right.
yeah. I mean, this is wild. This is unbelievable. And here's the last photo here. Perfect game for the whole family. I don't think so.
Well, no, for the whole family. If it's you don't have an alcoholic beverage, if you don't have an
I
adult
can't
beverage,
see
I
that.
think you can do that.
Yeah.
However,
I think
if you want
the
to
little
have
girl,
your kids involved, come on
the
now.
little girl's not. She's going for
Well,
the
yeah.
frisbee.
I mean, you know.
Holding the beer there. This must not be Cleveland. If it was Cleveland, they'd all have beers.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
Oh my.
What a wild sport. I can't
That is
believe it.
wild. That is.
Polish horseshoes. So, I thought John told me this. I've never heard of this sport. I can't believe it. And then I started to think. And I remembered back when we were in college, John, we were in a fraternity together. And I can remember us playing a game of Polish horseshoes. Do you remember that?
No, and my only wild guess on this is because we played so many different games against rival fraternities. I mean, I guess maybe we did. You're going to have to bring me back on this one, Paul.
Well,
Let me know what happened then.
Well, I know I have photos to prove it. So so the older brothers came to me and John, the young guys, and they said, "Hey, we got challenged to a game of Polish horseshoes by the Beta Taus or one of the other fraternities. So you guys are in charge. Get us the equipment, and you guys can compete against them." So we didn't know what Polish horseshoes was, so we asked the only Polish brother that we had, and that, of course, was Les, who is a who is a listener of our show. So Les, he says, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that." He says Polish horseshoes is horseshoes that you play without taking the shoes off the horse. So,
You know what? I think I wanted to block that from my memory, but now it's coming back to me.
So John and I, we Les must know he's Polish, both sides of the family. So we went and we got a couple of horses. So it was it was a tough competition. Here's me attempting to throw a. Oh, there's the last of the Polish horseshoes there. Here's me trying to throw a horse with the shoes still on it. I didn't do too. Although I did wear a Polish shirt there. I didn't know how to hold the horse correctly to throw it. However, John, much smarter than me, and in those years, much more athletic. Here's a picture of John with his horse. John got a horse on his shoulder, upside down, about to fling it out.
Well, you know what? I tell you what, my memory doesn't serve me well on that, but I think that looks pretty hilarious, if you ask me.
Oh God.
Unbelievable. Polish horseshoes only from What in the World of Sports with John Danello. Thanks, John. And
you're welcome, Paul. Care to an audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
and Les, if you're listening, thanks for the inspiration. On that note, I think we're done with What in the World of Sports, and that means it's time for Bluff, the co-host, everybody's favorite weird news game. So if you haven't played before, what's wrong with you? You should be listening. We've been on for 7 years. So if you haven't played before, Bluff the co-host is real easy. I've got 3 stories similar to the ones we've been talking about all afternoon. One big difference. Those stories were real. These stories may be real, may be a bluff, and it's up to John and Karen and all of you playing out there to decide, real or bluff. Wagering is allowed, so place your bet. John and Karen, hands on the buzzer, and let's get right to story number 1. American parents are familiar with the elf on the shelf who threatens their kids into behaving until Christmas Day. But what can they do the rest of the year? Or if they have really unruly kids? In Japan, parents can contact Phone Call from a Demon, a parenting app that has a scary demon FaceTime your child on your phone and scold them for their bad behavior. The demon will handle 5 types of problems: kids who don't listen, won't go to bed, don't eat their food, fight with their siblings, or don't keep their promises. Since demons are a big part of Japanese folklore, the calls are pretty effective for most kids. For the really tough cases, the company is working on a demon on the shelf. Okay, so A company in Japan has a demon on the phone who will call bad kids and tell them they better behave. Real or bluff? Karen, we'll start with you.
Well, there's an app for everything now, and parents don't want to be the bad guy. So, you know what? I think this is a possibility. I don't like it, but I think it's real.
Oh, okay. You think it's real? Would you call a demon on the phone for one of your boys?
No,
No. Okay.
no.
Did you ever have? Oh, I'm not even going to ask. Is, is, is there a
I
Jewish
was the
version
demon.
Elf on the Shelf? Yeah. Girdle on the girdle. I don't know. Whatever. Never mind. Never mind. Okay, so Karen says that's a real story. John, how about you?
Well, I'll tell you what. Um, there are apps for everything, it seems like, but this one just seems like it's wrong. I mean, why would you go to the extent of that? Well, I guess really I've answered my own question. I guess there's money in anything, right? So,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that's such a good idea. I'm gonna pray that this is a bluff.
Okay. So, John, what did you say? I'm sorry, I'm having a distraction here. You said it's real?
No, I said I'm praying it's a bluff, Paul.
You're playing it's a bluff. Karen says it's a real story. Let's check with the judges. And the judges say, congratulations, go to Karen. That is a real story.
Oh,
Demon
God.
on the phone.
Oh wow. Well,
Yeah, no kidding. I believe I honest to God, I can't believe it. Okay. All right, so that means scores 1-0. John, you gotta get working here.
got to get on track there.
Should have worn your Guardians hat, maybe.
Oh, well, that debate will continue on. I'm sure it will.
Your lucky Guardians hat. Okay, let's get right to story number 2. Most people have heard of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but an amusement park in nearby Genoa, Italy, is capitalizing on its fame with a new ride called the Falling Tower of Pisa. Riders get in cars at the base and take a slow ride to the top, feeling the tower sway and lean as they rise. Once they reach the top, the tower ride sways more and more until it suddenly falls forward, plunging the riders face first to the ground, stopping just feet from crashing. Before they can breathe a sigh of relief, the tower springs back up straight and then falls forward once more. At that point, the riders are ready to get off, and the tower is conveniently in the right position. While this has become the most popular ride in the park, the city of Pisa is suing because it claims the ride hurts their tourist business. For now, the Falling Tower of Pisa plans to be toppling people all summer. Okay, so the amusement park in Genoa, Italy, with a Falling Tower of Pisa ride. Real or bluff? John, we'll start with you.
Well, I'll tell you on this one, I think that I'm going to pray this is a bluff also. I mean, what are you trying to scare people like this? I mean, amusement park rides. I mean, I get the roller coaster and I get all that stuff, the scramblers and all that, right? I get all that. But really, I mean, to try to put people through something like this, I'm going to pray it's a bluff.
Okay, John prays it's a bluff. Karen, how about you?
Well, I don't think John's been to Cedar Point or an amusement park recently. So I'm going to say it's real, even though I would go nowhere near it.
I think you'll get a lot of agreement on that, Karen. So Karen says that the Falling Tower of Pisa is real. John says it's a bluff. Do I have that right?
That's right.
Yeah. Let's check with the judges, and the judges say, congratulations, go to John. That is a bluff.
Wow. Okay. Restores my faith.
We talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet
Well, it kind of restores
has,
my it restores my faith in the entertainment industry. Also, it makes me at least one and one here. Yeah. So at least I'm in the game. So that's good.
Yeah, we got a tie score there. So let's see who wins. Points are doubled in round number 3, but it doesn't really matter. So let's get right to story number 3. People in Norfolk, Virginia were in a panic last week when social media and the local news both reported a power outage at the Virginia Zoo and that all of the animals were safe, but one of the zoo's gorillas had escaped and was on the loose. so it would be best for everybody in Norfolk to stay indoors. A zoo spokesperson quickly sent out a response that the zoo didn't have any gorillas, so what the people probably saw was the zoo's resident cryptid, the zoo squatch. The zoo claimed that zoo squatch is harmless and looks more like the statue that they have at the entrance than a gorilla. So locals and visitors were invited to stop by and check it out before the next power outage. Okay, so power outage, reports of a gorilla being on the loose. The zoo says we don't have any gorillas. It's our zoo squatch. Real or bluff? Karen, we'll start with you.
This sounds so convoluted, so I'm going to say it's a bluff.
Okay, Karen says it's a bluff. Yeah, no zoo squatch for you. How about you, John?
Well, I'm going to go against the grain on this one. I'm going to say it's real because who knows what happens in a power outage, right? I mean, people are panicking and who knows what they see or what they think they see anyway. So I'm going to say that, let's say that was true.
Wow. Okay. So John says the zoo squatch story is real. Karen says it's a bluff. Let's check with the judges, and the judges say congratulations go to John. That is a real story. They really don't have any gorillas, and they really do have a statue of something that they call the zoo squatch in front of the zoo.
Yeah.
Really did issue a press release saying it's probably the zoo squatch. So put that all together, and John's a winner for this week.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, finally getting
Congratulations.
back on track. Karen's been beating me consistently for the last couple of weeks. So glad I don't have to use the flashcards this week coming up. And that'll be happy about that too. So that's good. Yeah. That's a good thing.
Sit outside this week until it snows on Friday. So
right, there you go. Do some yard work or something along that line. Right, yeah.
Spring in Cleveland, probably spring wherever you're at as well. So I think we've reached the end of this episode of What in the World. I want to thank Karen Hale, our producer, co-host, media mogul at newclevelandradio.net. Thank you for everything you do for us, for all of the podcasts at newclevelandradio.net. Please, everybody, visit her. Find out how to download us, download some of the other great podcasts that she has, and check out Yes I Can Coaching with Karen. Also, I want to thank my old buddy John Dinalo. Thanks for being the co-host and putting up with all my nonsense and a couple of great stories this week.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, Paul, actually. And who knows what sport I'll come up with next week. I mean, it seems like there's a limitless number. There's a limitless number of these weird sports. So hopefully I'll come up with another one next week.
John has a very deep barrel that he can't reach the bottom of yet. So good.
So to speak.
Okay, and most of all, we want to thank everybody out there for listening to the show. You're the reason why we do the podcast week after week. Without you, without your feedback, without you coming up to us in stores and saying, oh, we love What in the World, I don't know what we would do. We wouldn't do the show. So we hope you have as much fun listening and watching as we do putting it on week after week. So please visit us. Don't forget on YouTube. We got a lot of photos on YouTube. You can always check those out there. And I think that's it. On that note, we will wrap up for another week. We'll be back next week. Still March. We will have passed the first day of spring. So who knows what kind of weather we'll have next week? Probably a blizzard or a hurricane.
March Madness. So don't forget the madness.
Oh yeah, the bracketology is coming around here. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
For all sports fans, this is a good time of the year. Baseball starting. We have the March Madness. And thank goodness we have several weeks before the NFL draft when the focus will be on the Cleveland Browns, who have the second pick in the draft. Right. So who knows if they keep the pick or they trade out of it. Stay tuned.
We'll find out. That's right.
We'll find out. Well, have a great week, everybody.
Have a great everybody. Bye. Take care. Have a good week.